This comes from a study, it has to do with decision making, that looked at triathletes. Again, I do a lot of work in sport. All right. Now that might look a little confusing to you, so let me help you out here. If you look at the bottom line, you'll see passive, active, and proactive. All right. Those are thoughts. All right. Passive thoughts would be like, for example, you're sitting in this room and you notice things like, that's a beautiful chandelier. All right. Or I notice Marcus looks really sharp with those suspenders and that tie. All right. That's a fairly passive thought because it really doesn't have anything to do with your purpose being here. Now, if you look and saw Kendall sitting there and say, you know, Kendall just had an interesting project that I'd like to talk to him about. That's an active thought. All right. He's here, you're here, and there's something you've got in presence. All right. Or there's some people at your table you don't know. So actively, maybe I should find out what he or she does. All right. That's an active thought. For the athletes who are in the triathlon, they would think things like, what's my heart rate going? Because if it's going too fast, I'm not going to be able to finish the race. What's my mileage currently? What's the weather like? Is it starting to get too hot? If it is, I've got to slow down a little bit. Or is it temperature going to stay cool? I can speed up a little bit. So they're always monitoring the current events that are going to impact the project. And you do that too, all the time. That's probably where you spend most of your day, is monitoring those things that are going to influence the project. Those are active thoughts. Now let's just start with those two. If you notice passive thoughts, over here we have front, middle, and back. That's the pack. Right? Think about a race. We have the front of the pack, we have the middle of the pack, and we have the back of the pack. In Georgia, we call the back of the pack the University of Florida. You know, someday I fear I'm going to be in in Gainesville and make that comment. All right. If you notice, this line here, the one that peaks the highest, almost no passive thoughts. When the people who are in the front of the pack are in the race, they're either on active thoughts, and I haven't gotten to the proactive thoughts, and I will. All right, they are either active thoughts or proactive thoughts. You look at the middle of the packers, they spend a little less than half of their time, maybe about 35% of their time, on passive thoughts. Gee, it's a nice day. All right? That's a very good-looking person running by me. All right? All right. Now, you look at the back of the packers, all right, and they spend almost half their time in these passive thoughts, basically daydreaming, all right? Not really aware of what's going on. Now, look at the active thoughts. The front of the packers are thinking about that all the time, constantly monitoring the situation. This is what gives your job such a challenge, isn't it? You're constantly doing that. Where are we? And what do we need to do? The what do we need to do is the proactive. And you notice the back of the packers hardly ever have a proactive thought. That's the thought about what's happening now and how can I use it to affect the future. That's proactive. And when you're on a project and you look at what's going on now and you say, how can I use these people next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now that is really going to make a difference in this project? What do I need to do today that will influence the future? For people who are competing in triathletes, it's like, okay, here's my resting heart rate. All right, it's not too bad. I know I'm going to have enough energy when there's only a mile left in the race to really kick it in. That's a proactive thought. Okay? And again, you notice the biggest proportion is the thinking is the front of the packers think strategically. And as a project manager, when you do that, when you're looking into the future, thinking about how you could use today, that is one way to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. Because the future is going to happen. How much control you have over it depends on how you think about it.